Okay, let's get started. Thanks everybody for being here. This is the Solar United Neighbors, Solar 101. And we're gonna focus on the Twin Cities area solar co-op, how that works, the basics of going solar and the economics of going solar. My name's Bobby King. I'm the Minnesota State Director. I use he, him pronouns, and my colleague Trinity is on the
Hi, y'all.
webinar too. Do you want to introduce yourself, Trinity?
Of course. Hi, y'all. I'm Trinity. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm based in Iowa, but I help out our co-ops in Minnesota and a few other states as well. And I'm super excited to chat with y'all. Bobby will be presenting, but if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat, and Bobby will also go over the process if you want to come off mute to ask questions.
All right. So there, you can ask questions as we go, either in chat or coming off mute. And if you want to be on camera, you're welcome to also. Just to make sure everyone's comfortable and knowing how to use chat, make sure the two, where it says two, it's to everyone, not just the moderators. And why don't people, if you don't mind, put your name in there, where you're from, and what your strongest interest in solar is. So we can see, everyone could see, learn a little bit about who's on there, and we can make sure we're all using the technology to participate fully. I will start us off. Patrick in St. Paul is here. Right, Carol in Washington County, Two Rivers Community Land Trust. Excellent. Hi, Carol. Yeah, I feel like a YouTuber. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe. Coon Rapids, Mary Ellen in Minneapolis, Phillips neighborhood. Great, welcome. Zua, Mary Ellen, Ashley, Vandus Heights, Zach in St. Paul. All right. Oh, also with Two Rivers. Yep, Brandon wants that free sun power. Put it to work. Cindy Nelson, Ashley Oaks Townhomes, great. We passed a law to help HOA homeowners go solar. I think that should help. Teresa in St. Paul, Elders for Climate Action, great. Anna Silva, yeah, we helped Anna go Silva at our previous home. She's got a new home, so I hope we'll get her solar again at our new place. Yeah, folks, just keep filling that out. Saying who you are, and Trinity's going to monitor the chat if you have questions there, or if you want to unmute as we go. Presentation will take probably a little more than an hour to get through it all. Now let me figure out how to advance my slides. There we go. So this is what we just went through. You can join the auto to ask questions. You can submit them in chat. And this is being recorded, and we'll send it out afterwards. So everyone will have it to review. Key to the work we do and promoting these solar co-ops is community partners. And the partners, we've officially launched the Twin Cities Area Solar Co-op, and I know most of you are from the Twin Cities, and we've done a soft launch of the Duluth and Arrowhead Solar Co-op. So there may be some folks from the Northland on, and these are our partners for those two co-ops: City of Minneapolis, Minnesota Renewable Energy Society, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, which is a group that works with churches and faith-based communities to advance renewable power. Great organization. Cook County Local Energy Project, way up on the Arrowhead. They're getting solar and renewable energy done up there, and in the city of Coon Rapids. And One Roof Community Housing is a provider of housing for low-income homeowners in the Duluth and North Shore area. So those partners are key to getting this work done. Little bit about Solar United Neighbors. We're a vendor neutral, meaning installer neutral, national 501(c)(3) nonprofit. And we think of ourselves as here to help people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. We've helped 8,000 families go solar through one of our solar co-ops. 65 over 65 megawatts of solar and 843 tons of CO2 saved. So we really, as we do these solar co-ops, we monitor what works, evaluate and improve. So we've done over 450 of them around the country. So we've got a process that it works really well and getting better every time. Here in Minnesota, 248 people have gone solar through one of our solar co-ops, our solar group buys. That's a little over 2 megawatts of solar installed. And you can see the numbers that flow from that type of solar: 6.4 million invested locally, 7.9 million in energy savings, a little over 42 solar jobs created, and 22,190 metric tons of lifetime CO2 offsets. So each little bit adds up to a big number. A little bit about our history is in 2007, Anya Schoolman in that Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C. She's there in the picture in the sunglasses. Her son, Diego, which is a young man on our right, her left, he saw An Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore, came home, told his mom, we got to go solar. And she said, well, that makes sense. Let's try it out. Let's see if we could do it. And at that time, they got many different answers from different folks at the city, different answers from electricians. And it wasn't making sense what a clear path forward was. So her sensibilities are to organize, bring folks together. She got about 100 of her neighbors in Mount Pleasant together to start thinking about it, working on it together. Took them a couple years. I think over 50 folks ended up going solar through that process. And it made the newspaper. She started getting calls about we'd like to do this. Ran it out of her living room for a while, out of her home. And now we've turned into an organization that has programs like the one we have in Minnesota in 11 states, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. We've got members in all 50 states, done 412 solar co-ops in the states that we have programs in, and over 850 homes have gone solar. And just core to that story and core to how we think about things is when you bring like-minded people together around a common vision, you can always get more done effectively. It's kind of built into who we are and how we think about things. And once again, this kind of here's the revolving circle of our theory of change. We want to help people go solar, join together, and fight for our energy rights. And by fight for energy rights, we mean advance policy that makes more distributed solar possible. So keeping good laws and creating new laws. And we want those laws to be based on our experience working directly with folks on going solar. What worked, what didn't, what needs to be better to make it more possible for more people. Key to how we are thinking about this, and this especially ramped up for some, like many organizations after the murder of George Floyd. How do we do this in a way where we think about equity, where we don't want to repeat mistakes we've made in who benefits and who's harmed by the energy system. And in fact, we want to bake in seeing if we can address some of those injustices that have occurred. So one of the exciting things for me about the solar co-op is it's going to allow low-income people to go solar, middle-income people to go solar, and higher-income people to go solar all at a better price. And because of incentives we've helped secured it, and because we're doing it together, it will make it possible for folks with lower incomes to benefit from rooftop solar, lower those energy bills, and plow those savings back into education, paying off the mortgage, and climbing the ladder to a higher economic rung. All right, so here's the outline of what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go over the basics of solar technology. The way I think about it is you don't really need to know how your transmission works on your car, the details of it, or better example would be your CV joint. You don't need to know exactly how that works, but it's good to know what one is when your mechanic says it's broken. So if what they're saying makes any sense at all. So you'll get a basic understanding of how a solar array works on your home. The economics of solar, how to think about how it can pay for itself and then start generating income, what those numbers look like, how to think about them, and then how our solar co-ops, how these group buys we put together work to save you money, and how you could participate in that. And again, ask questions in the chat, or you can come off mic if you want to ask questions as we go, and we'll pause at the end of each section to ask questions to see if there's any questions too. So solar technology, let's get in how this solar creates electricity for us. Just to be clear, we're talking about solar photovoltaic, PV solar, it's sometimes called, which converts solar energy to electricity. There's other kinds of solar. There's passive solar. There's solar that heats hot water. That's all great stuff too, but it's not what we're doing tonight, and not what the solar co-op's about. Yeah, so there you see a couple in front of their ground mount. So here's the basics. On your roof, or if you have space and it's what you want on the ground, there'll be solar panels put together to make a solar array. Those panels will take the sunlight and turn it into DC current, direct current. That will flow to an inverter, and that inverter will take the direct current and turn it into alternating current, AC current, which is what you use in your home. That'll flow to your electrical panel, and through the mysteries of electricity, which is hungry to get used up, it will go to the closest load. So if you're running your hair dryer, if you've got your electric oven on, it'll flow through your electrical panel to power those devices, electric devices in your home. But in Minnesota, let's say on a nice 65-degree day, you're not running your AC, the sun's just cranking, you're producing more electricity from your array than you're using in your home. It will go through your utility meter onto the grid, and then your neighbor will use that power. It'll go directly to them. So they'll get your very local, sustainably produced electricity that has as little line loss as could ever happen, because you're producing power almost adjacent. Well, you are adjacent to them. So it's high quality, renewable power that you use what you need and you share the rest. You're compensated for what you share through a process called net metering, and we'll go over that in just a little bit. So here's the components of a panel on the left. Your frame, glass, encapsulant binds the glass to the cells, another layer of encapsulant that binds it to a back sheet, and then there's a junction box to join the panels together. And when they're put together, they're called a solar array. And an important thing to know about a modern solar panel is it's a durable product with a very substantial warranty. And there's two types of warranties they have. One is a product warranty. So a warranty that says this panel will be free from defects for the standard is usually around 12, and it goes as high as 30 years for different panels. So that's to say this is a product that the manufacturers feel good about. The second type of warranty is called a production warranty, and that speaks to the amount of power the panel will be generating as it ages compared to what it generated on day one. And typically the warranties will be along the lines of 2% deterioration in the first year and 0.5% or less in the following years up until the 25th year, the warranty goes. So panels will be guaranteed to produce typically somewhere between 85 to 92% of the power they did in the 25th year as they did on day one. So again, just speaking to, it's a product manufacturers feel good about, and the warranties are pretty meaningful. Here's two terms to get straight. You've heard them both, and you probably has a fuzzy idea of what they mean, but it's just good to get them straight in your head right now, because if you don't, things can get confusing. The difference between kilowatt and kilowatt hours. So kilowatt is really a measurement of power. So you think of the old school light bulbs, a 60-watt bulb was half as bright as a 120-watt bulb. So yeah, a 400 kilowatt array is half as powerful as an 800 kilowatt array. So it's a measurement of power. Kilowatt hours is the way we measure usage of that power or production of that power. So your electricity bill is in kilowatt hours. On your bill, it will show you how much you use a month and how much you've used in a year. And your installer is going to need to have that bill and know those numbers to give you the appropriately sized system. So an average size for a home is between 6 to 7 kilowatts, maybe a little bit larger actually. And there's a drawing to scale a person beside a 4.8 kilowatt system, 400-watt panels, which is a fairly typical power rating for a panel now. Here's an issue people have some anxiety about that we like to cover is the racking. So the main thing that I think to understand about racking is that it's a well-developed product that's perpetually getting better and better. So no installer is getting up on your roof and figuring it out as they go. These are well-designed, and leaks in roofs are rare because of a solar install. And there's a racking system for most every type of roof. You'll see on the top left, flashing for an asphalt roof. Just below that on the left is clamps on a metal seam roof. Metal seam roofs work awesome for solar. You don't have to penetrate the metal at all. It clamps on. And a ballast for a flat roof and so forth. There's a system on a flat roof. And of course, if you have the room, or if you're in the countryside, you can do a ground mount. Ground mounts allow you to orient the array, in the best possible orientation towards the sun. There's a little more upfront cost because there's just more the structure, the ground mount itself, the steel, and it's a little more expensive. There's more of it, but it can make for an optimal system. Then the last part of your system is your inverter, which is gonna take your, again, take that DC power that the panel's producing and turn it into AC power, which is what your home uses. And there's two types and a combo of the two types. So on your left is a string inverter, mostly used for ground mounts in commercial settings, where there's one inverter for many panels. On the left is a microinverter, and microinverters, every panel gets a microinverter. And then there's a combination of the two, string inverters and DC optimizers. And the installer is going to have a recommendation for what's best for your situation. Most home uses go with, most folks on their home get a microinverter, or in some cases, there's installers that like the inverter with the DC optimizers option. There's just a little more detail on them. So here's a string inverter, and you could see how they're wired in series. The panels, the arrays all wired in series, and it goes to that one inverter. String inverters have a warranty of typically 10 to 12 years. And because of the nature of electricity, if one panel's partially shaded, and so it's only producing at, let's say, 80% of capacity, all the others will also produce at only 80%. So string inverters by themselves really only work if you've got a system that's there's no shade. So you see on the top is a microinverter, and microinverters have a warranty of 25 years. And on the bottom, you'll see you can do a string inverter with optimizers that overcome that problem of every panel being reduced by the panel that's functioning at the least capacity. It'll make sure everyone's optimized. Those optimizers have a warranty of 25 years too. And then how does it all connect up to your home? It goes through your electrical panel. And most homes, any newer home, would usually have plenty of room for the solar to be added. If you're looking at your junction box or your electrical panel, sorry, and all the slots are filled up, you might need your panel upgraded, electrical panel upgraded. That's usually $2,000 to $4,000. Many of the solar incentives will apply to that upgrade also. So sometimes people use the going solar as an opportunity to upgrade some of their electrical work to take advantage of some of the incentives that will apply to that if you're doing it along with solar. And a little bit about your roof. South facing is the best, but panels are efficient enough now that east and west will work too. You just don't want panels on the north side. It's just not recommended. If you're dealing with an installer that wants to do that, you need to look elsewhere. Little or no shading is what you're looking for. And you want at least 300 foot of space, uninterrupted space, if you can. Splitting the array up into components add costs, but you can make it work. I know a lot of these Minneapolis bungalows have dormers like my house, and you get a little space here and a little space there. It adds cost, but it can work. And then you want your roof. We like to see roofs have at least 12 to 15 years of life in them. because to put up a new roof, the panels have to come down and go back up. And you don't want to put panels up on a roof that's going to be replaced in a year. The good news is these panels are very durable, and the roof under your panels is going to have a long life to it, longer than the rest of the roof. So a little bit about a net metering. So again, back to that diagram of the array on the home. When you're producing more than you use, it's going to your neighbor. It's going to go to your closest neighbor. They're going to use it. Excel or whoever your utility is charging them for that usage. And then you're being compensated 1-to-1 for that usage. So the law in Minnesota is that if you're under 40 kilowatts, which any home would be, you're entitled to net metering, and that will be reflected on your bill. So your bill will be electricity you used minus the electricity that you exported, that your neighbors used, and the difference will be the amount of electricity you paid for. The amount of electricity you pay for will be the difference. Now, those numbers could be reversed. You could have used 200 kilowatt hours from the grid and exported 300 kilowatt hours. So you'd be owed money. A lot of folks are owed money in the summer, and in the winter, they're paying in. And different utilities have different mechanisms for how you get paid and when you get paid. It's important to note too that most utilities don't know and don't report to you the usage of your solar usage. That all happens behind the meter. So they don't know that you generated 500 kilowatt hours and you use that all in your home. They just know what goes through their meter and back onto the grid. I failed to mention that an important part of your inverter. Your inverter will, through your Wi-Fi, if you have it, and if you don't have it, you need to pay a little bit extra to get a cellular a chip as part of your inverter. It has an app that will communicate to you what your panels are producing and how they're working. And that will also be automatically, your installer will also be monitoring that automatically. And if something stops working or improperly, isn't working properly, you and the installer will be notified that's happening. So that's an important part of understanding how your panels are working. Some folks love to monitor it and daily, hourly, or report, give you detailed reports month by month, year over year. You can see exactly what your panels are delivering for you. All right, what happens when the power goes out? So this surprised me the first time I heard it. When the grid is down, your solar shuts off. It's about safety. When lines people come out to get the power back on, they can't have any electricity being backfed onto the grid. So if you want power from your solar when the power's out, you'll need batteries. And really, we see people get batteries when they have frequent utility outages. You've got critical loads at home, medical equipment, or you're working from home and you just got to have the power all the time, or you're just interested in batteries, emerging technology, and disaster preparedness. They don't save you money, and but instead of putting the electricity back on the grid, that the electricity you're producing, not using, it goes to your batteries. So it lengthens your payback period considerably. And then a battery will be designed to power a specific circuit in your home that you'll design with the installer. So you'll think of the critical loads you want to power when the power's out, and there will be a circuit that powers those. So maybe refrigerator, microwave, some lights, cable modem, maybe a small air conditioner. Anything that generates heat is gonna just suck that battery dry very quickly. So usually people don't do those. But your installer will help you think that through and create that with you. And then here you can see a little bit of the cost. So they add a considerable amount of cost. So most folks, after they look at the numbers, don't get batteries, but a few always do. And the installers we work with always offer it. Battery technology is getting better faster. The other thing in the mix here is electric vehicles have very powerful batteries in them. And we're on a path to that car battery potentially being the battery that you can also use to power your home. So change is happening there, but we haven't crossed the threshold to make it pencil out yet. And we have a guide on batteries for folks that want to learn more. We have some staff that are really into batteries. And if you want to learn more and you want to do that when you go solar, we've got folks that can help you think that through. All right, just a quick review, then we'll move on. You got your solar array on your roof, takes the sun, produces DC current. That DC current goes to your inverter, which turns it into AC current. That inverter is what's communicating to your computer or your phone or both about the status of your array, what it's producing, the health of it. Flows into your electrical panel. You take what you need, what you could use, and the rest goes through your utility meter for you to share with your neighbors. And you get compensated for what your neighbors use and that Excel is charging them for. Go through these frequently asked questions and I'll pause and see if there's other questions. So we went through warranties. Homeowners insurance is a little bit of a wild card. We've seen that all over the place. You're going to want to check and what your homeowner's insurance wants to charge you. And if it's exorbitant, you might need to shop around. There isn't always rhyme or reason to those numbers in our experience. Maintenance, there's no moving parts, so it's not like you need to get out and oil something or grease it. There's really no such thing as maintenance free in my experience. So things can break. Hopefully it's under warranty. The warranty may or may not cover the labor, so there may be some cost to you depending on the warranty. Snow is something I get asked about a lot. In my experience, most folks don't worry about the snow. It slides off after a time. We get such limited sunlight in the winter that you really end up losing very little production. But some folks that really want to get every last little benefit will buy a device, kind of a rubber squeegee device to get the snow off the panels without damaging the panels. So how long do systems last? The panels are warranted for 25 years. We're still in that this major expansion of installing these better panels. So we'll see how long they last beyond 25 years. But the expectation is that you'll have a product that will last at least 25 years. Homeowners Association, we passed a law last legislative session that gives Many people in HOAs, if you have a detached unit or you own the whole unit, gives you the right to install solar. We hope to expand that to make it anybody who really owns their own unit and is responsible for the roof to be able to do solar. Historic district, that's tricky. And it's really on a case-by-case basis. We have had trouble with historic districts, especially in St. Paul. They're not inclined to say yes, but it can be worked out. Any other questions before we move on to the economics of solar?
Yeah, we had a couple questions in the chat, Bobby. The first one is if someone is currently having community solar, would they need to unenroll before they get their own solar array?
You know, here's what I'm told. No, you can do both. But I've never walked someone through that process. So I'm told, I'm assured you can, but I don't know of anyone who's done it. So I kind of don't believe it till I see it. But I've been told by the regulators you can do both.
Thank you. And the second question, could you talk a little about if Minnesota has enough sunny days to produce enough energy to run a house?
Well, it depends, right? Um, how much solar you put up, how much energy you use. So I think a better way to think about it is um, well, if you're interested in offsetting your yearly usage, some people just they approach it with that philosophy. I want to be producing in a year for my solar what I use in a year. You can definitely accomplish that if you um, uh, aren't crazy on your energy usage and you have a decent sized roof. It won't be month to month. So like in the winter, you will need electricity from the grid. In the summer, you'll be putting more onto the grid. But your installer will look at what you use a year and you'll give the installer some guidance on what type of system you want. Like, I want maximum solar, or I want the quickest payback period. Um, and they will estimate for you uh, with really reasonable accuracy how much solar you'll produce in a year, and you can check that against your yearly usage. Does that answer the question? All right. If it doesn't, drop something in chat or come off mute and ask some clarifying questions as we go. But you'll still, of course, be connected to the grid with your solar. And that's a great thing because a lot of people, their first thoughts about solar, it's about self-sufficiency. And it is about that, but it's also producing solar power and sharing it with the community too. It's really about creating an interconnected grid where all of us or more of us are becoming sustainable power producers using what we need and sharing the rest. And so by making the production of power more diffuse, we're both distributing the economic benefits and we're reducing line loss as electricity's goes over these power lines, there's loss. But when you're using it very close to where you produce it, there's much less loss. So the economics of solar. Um, so here's a chart that just shows how the price of solar has really plummeted over time as it's gotten better. It's no longer a specialty or boutique project. Uh, the companies that make these panels are large and getting larger. The market is growing. And there's a return on investment. You'll be able to predict fairly accurately over the 25-year period of the warranty life of those panels, how much money you will be able to not only save but earn back. There's also this 30% federal tax credit, which will available now, which we'll get into how that works in just a moment. We'll get into it right now. So you can take the cost of going solar, and that would include panel upgrades and electrical upgrades needed to go solar. 30% of that you can take as a credit against federal income tax owed. If you can use all of that credit in 1 year, that's great. But you can roll it over to successive years until you use it. Everyone's entitled to that. And it's relatively easy to take. One thing to be mindful of, though, is solar installers on their proposal will often, the price that they'll have in bold is the price minus that 30% tax credit. Just keep in mind, you got to front that money and you don't get it back until you claim it through your taxes at the end of the year. So be sure you're thinking about that right when you're planning how you're going to pay for stuff. And we're happy to help with that. Here's some back of the envelope numbers that to give you an idea about what you might be looking at in terms of savings and thinking about the return on investment. Let's just look at the 8 kilowatt. Figuring a 320 a watt. Some people might end up paying a little more. I think most will pay less than that. But that'd be $25,600 for an 8 kilowatt system, which is an average size system for a home. The tax credit gives you $7,680. So your net cost is $17,920. Your year one savings on electricity are $1,293, and you got your estimated 10-year savings and your estimated 25-year savings. And that isn't simply the first year times 10 times 25, because the cost of electricity is going up, especially in Excel territory. They've asked for large increases year over year often. So you're looking at, on the 8 kilowatt system over the 25 years, a profit of $20,893. Some installers, and you can ask any installer to do this, to tell them what your payback year is. And if they won't do it, we can help you do it. In other words, when does the value of the electricity produced equal the net cost that you paid? Typically in Minnesota, that's going to be around 12 years. And here's some numbers figuring in financing. And the takeaway from this is that over a 25-year period, you'll still realize a profit, just not as much because you're paying interest on money you borrowed. But it can still work, and often does with financing, and most people do some type of financing. For loans, some installers offer loans. I would certainly take a look at that. But I would also shop around. There's money to be saved on a loan. You can try a home equity line of credit. Well, this used to make sense to refinance and include solar. That used to be a great thing to do. With current interest rates, doesn't make as much sense. If you go to our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/financing, we have all the financing options we know of that are worth looking into. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page and click on Minnesota, there's some Minnesota specific options too. Here's 3 that are worth looking at. There's a nonprofit called the Lending Center at the Center for Energy and the Environment, CEE. They offer solar loans They're a great place to start, low closing costs, relatively low interest rates. It's always worth seeing what they can do for you. Affinity Plus Credit Union and a Highway Credit Union have a CU Green Solar Loan Program that's worth looking into. If you're in the Duluth area, Members Cooperative Credit Union has a solar loan too. A lot of folks like to get a loan where the equipment is the collateral, not your home. And I think some of these loans do that. Here's a little bit about the Center for Energy and the Environment. What's especially worth checking out with them is they have solar specific loans that they administer in partnership with these 17 cities that can give you a lower interest rate and lower closing costs depending on your city. So they're easy to work with, fast turnaround time. They can give you some numbers on what they can lend you, or if they can lend you money and what the interest rate is. It's just a good benchmark to measure other things against. Right now, they're at 6%, up to 20 years, up to $6,000, no income limits. And it's available statewide. And again, in some cities, there's a better deal available based on the cities they've got a agreement with. All right. Let me stop there. Any questions there before we dive into the incentives that can help lower the cost for everybody?
We had a question about highway merging with Spire Credit Union. Do you happen to know if the loan program survived the merger?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I forgot to double check the status of that one. Uh, my guess is it probably did, but I have to say I don't know. I'll look into that and we'll update our website. All right, let's jump into these. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question about the tax credits.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say your tax bill is less than the credits you would earn. Is that something that you have to carry over to another tax year, or does it become part of the rebate or the refund? I'm sorry.
Yeah, good question. No, let's just say your solar investment tax credit is $10,000 and your federal tax payment that year is 5,000. You can only take 5,000 of the credit, and then you've got 5,000 to use in future years.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
there's no cash payment. It's just a credit. But you can keep that credit until you use it. Use it up.
Right.
So you just got to remember you got it.
Right.
And it's a one-page form. TurboTax has it. It's pretty easy to take, but it's incumbent upon you to make sure you take it.
Right. Okay, thanks.
All right. Solar incentives. See how we can get that price down. Just mentioning this in case we have some folks on that are farmers or rural business owners. There's a program called Rural Energy for America, REAP, which can cover up to 50% of the cost. It's a grant program you have to apply for. It's a point-based system. Not everybody that applies gets it, but many do. So that's always worth trying for. Property assessed clean energy financing for businesses is a mechanism to get really a low interest loan with no closing costs for your business to go solar, and it's put onto your paid through your property taxes. And then businesses can claim accelerated depreciation. So for businesses, solar can make super sense. But for homeowners, it makes sense too. We have a guide on how to apply for REAP. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. And we have some resources to help you navigate this process. Dakota Electric has a one-time $500 rebate per premise. One of the few rural electric co-ops that has something, but they got the $500. For anyone in Duluth, and I don't think we have anyone from Duluth on the call, but Minnesota Power has a program that can pay up to 4,000, but that'd be for a large system, more typically a 1,500 to $2,000. And you'll see that 84 applied, 58 were funded. It's really essentially a lottery system where way more people apply than get it. But if you're in the Duluth area and want that, I'm happy to talk to you more offline about it. And Minnesota Power also has a low income solar program. And we can help you apply for a grant through that if that's your situation. They use the guidelines for energy assistance. And just so folks know, energy assistance now does a 1-month look back. That's the income you need to have for the month previous to the month you apply in. And it will pay a portion of your energy bill. So the funds for energy assistance are always underutilized. Way more people qualify than get it. So whether or not you go solar, if these numbers fall within what you get, you might want to look at tapping into that assistance. If you need help, we can help you after. Then for anyone who gets their energy from Xcel, they have a program called Solar Rewards. Everyone that goes solar in their territory can get it as long as there's money available in the pool. They have $11.5 million this year. That's up from $5 million last year. So everyone in the solar co-op, by the time you get your proposal and go solar, there'll be money available. It pays you 3 cents a kilowatt hour for 10 years for every kilowatt hour of solar you produce. To get it, you have to limit the size of your array to 120% of your use of what your usage is. That's written wrong there. It says 125% of production. You must limit the size of the array to 100% of your annual usage. Some folks, they got a great big roof and it's oriented great, and they could get up solar that produces 200% of their usage, and they forego the incentive. And it actually makes financial sense, environmental sense, economic sense. So it's something you may or may not make sense for you, but there's plenty of money for everyone to get it. It's paid as a separate check to you at the end of the year. Here's an example of what that might look like. So you got a 5 kilowatt system. We just figured 320 watt for this back of the envelope kind of number. Federal tax credit puts you at 4,710. You got the net cost of 10,990. First year of electric savings is 750, and your first year of solar rewards, that 3 cents a kilowatt, be about 279. It's going to depend on shading, orientation, your actual production, but it's going to be in that ballpark. So you'll see that over the 10 years, you'll make $2,790. So it's definitely worth getting if it makes sense for you, and it's there to get. It's also worth knowing the money for this program. When Xcel built the Prairie Island nuclear power plant, they committed to not storing any nuclear waste there. And the nation was supposed to create a repository for all of our nuclear waste, which didn't happen and hasn't happened. Nobody wants to be the receptacle for all that waste. So they wanted to continue operating. There was a large movement to say, you got to honor your commitment. But then ultimately the state allowed them to store nuclear waste on site at Prairie Island. But to do that, they had to pay funds into something called the Renewable Development Account. And that money was to be used to help transition our state to renewable energy. And that's where this money comes from. So there's another incentive, the income qualified solar rewards, that we've used in the past. But last year, it was significantly improved at our urging by the Minnesota Department of Commerce. So now this program pays $2.75 a watt after you're interconnected, so it's essentially upfront. And if you're on any of these programs, energy assistance, Section 8 housing voucher, if you're a Habitat for Humanity candidate, WIC or SNAP recipient, community land trust homeowner, or you're on medical assistance, you qualify for that incentive. There's another incentive that will help everyone that's in the solar co-op and lives in Minneapolis qualify for. It's a program that Minneapolis has that you can get as part of a group buy. And it pays 20 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated annual production for anyone in the program. If you live in one of Minneapolis green zones, you get 35 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated first year of annual production. And if you live in low income dedicated home, for example, a land trust home, or you qualify for the income qualified solar rewards, you get 40 cents a kilowatt hour for your estimated annual production. So your kilowatt hours estimated for the first year times 40 cents, times 35 cents, or times 20 cents, depending on your situation. 1 of every 5 people that get the incentive have to be a Minneapolis Green Zone resident or in the low income category. Sun will take care of making sure we meet that ratio, so that everyone in Minneapolis that's a part of the group buy could tap into this benefit. So benefits everybody in Minneapolis. Here's where the green zones are. Those are areas of Minneapolis where the city has determined they're disproportionately people of color living there and disproportionately been harmed by the impacts of pollution and other stuff. So the city has programs targeted to those communities. So if you live in those communities, you're in a green zone. So here's how solar might work out for a Minneapolis resident that's part of the group buy using the green cost share. This 5 kilowatt system at 15,700. You got the tax credit at 4710. Then the green cost share for a system that size is going to be about 1,250. So your net cost will be just under 10,000. The way the green cost share works is we'll mail you a check for that amount, and then we're reimbursed by the city. Can be a little slow to get to you because the city permit has to close out before we can start getting the money. But you'll know what that amount coming to you is going to be. It'll be in your proposal. And then here's looking at the numbers if you qualify for the income qualified solar rewards. Let's say you got a 5 kilowatt system, 314 a watt in this example, 15,700. The Minneapolis Green cost share would be 2,500 bucks. The solar rewards low income solar would be 13,750. So if you live in Minneapolis, your solar would be at no cost. And as a part of the group buy, we get installers to agree to forego payment until after the interconnection. So you're not having to front any money either. If you live outside of Minneapolis, and qualify for the income qualified solar rewards, you don't get the green cost share, but the cost would still be only 1,950. So your payback period would be like 2 years. Phenomenal. Any question there on incentives?
Yes, Bobby, I have a quick question. So, I saw the green zone map for Minneapolis and I noticed that my house is out of that area.
Okay.
That last slide that you just had with the breakdown of the total prices for the installation, would that still be the same or would that be different since I'm out of the green zone?
Yeah, this gets a little confusing. I'm back at the green zone. I mean, how the green cost share program works. So everybody is eligible for the 20 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Green zone 35 cents. If you qualify for the income qualified solar rewards, you qualify for the 40 cents.
Okay, so that would be if you have WIC or have a habitat home that would
Yep,
qualify.
that gets you the income qualified solar rewards. Then you get the 40 cents. If you don't qualify for the income qualified solar rewards, or you don't live in the green zone, you can get the 20 cents.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this stuff gets a little confusing. Any more questions on incentives?
We did have another question about the federal incentive if you are low income. I know some folks that may not have the tax liability to claim the full tax credit. Some installers offer PPAs, but I wasn't sure what the Minnesota rules were. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah. So the thing to remember is if you are lower income and use incentives and are able to get solar, you still have that 30% tax credit hanging out there for you. So as your income goes up and your tax liability goes up, you got that in the bank to use. But right, that's that credit, that incentive doesn't work unless your federal income tax is large enough for you to use it in a relatively short period of time.
So I'm sorry, I have another question about all of that. When I was first looking at the energy incentives that are coming from the Inflation Reduction Act, it looked like 80% of area median income was like where low income starts. And these low income credits, they're kind of all over because some of those programs are quite low and others would accommodate up to 80% of AMI. How are those like designated limit or those thresholds decided? Because it's much easier to get energy assistance than it is to get food support, for example. And you can be 80% of AMI and get a land trust home or a habitat home.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah, I hear you. No, I'll just say, don't get me to lying. I don't, how those thresholds are determined is mind-boggling. It's a landmine of different numbers. The different programs are inconsistent in how they define, what poor is or what median income is. So, what Excel Energy wants, they don't want to verify income. So they want you to be in a program where there is an income qualification that's and Minnesota Commerce determines is a reasonable threshold to qualify for these type of incentives. And I don't think where we ended up is perfect. It's a lot better than where it was, but there's some randomness to it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect you really to have an answer or be able to solve it. I just wanted to whine.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's confusing for sure.
Bobby, I
Any,
had a question.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the best way to make sure that I get all the like tax credits, not tax credits, different incentives out there for that work for me? Like, who do I rely on to help me figure out what I'm qualified for?
Um, yeah, we just shared with you everything we know about, and we're pretty good at this. So, if you want to get a better understanding of your particular situation, give me a call or an email, and
Okay.
and we could pick through it and see what your situation, what you'd what would work, what you're entitled to.
Okay. Thanks.
Any more questions there? All right, and if something pops up that we've already gone through, uh, just jump in. So how do our solar co-ops work? So why would people do them? People want to get it, know they're getting a fair price and a good value on a solar installation. Support throughout the process. I'm here, Trinity's here, we've got other staff here that some of our staff have worked in the industry. We can get you answers to questions. Some folks like connecting with other fellow solar enthusiasts as they do the process, and folks like to feel like they're part of a growing solar movement. So those are all different reasons why folks love the solar co-op process. Just one thing about the use of the term co-op. Like I said, we started on the East Coast, and the term co-op doesn't have the same meaning as it does here in the Midwest, where we're the land of farmer co-ops and food co-ops. So there is no legal entity. There is no legal co-op formed. It's really, we're using the term to mean a group buy where people are really working together closely. So after this group buy is done, this co-op kind of ceases to exist. Sun's still here to help, but in essence, it's a group buy where we're all communicating, working with each other. So what's the theory behind them? Why do they work? You'll see here a chart of how the price for solar has dropped. The system components have gone way down in cost as the quality's gotten better. Labor costs have gone down as it's become more standardized and people get better at it. But what hasn't gone down is the cost of procuring customers, soft costs. So we're telling installers, we got 150 people here. They've gone through a webinar. We've looked at their homes and determined they're suitable for solar, and they're ready to go. And what's the best price you can give us? And you're a group of people that installers really want to meet. Here's kind of the steps of how the process works. Learn about solar, learn about the co-op, what we're doing now. Sign up online. It's free to join. There's no obligation to go solar. You will get a proposal from the solar installer to look at and see what they can do for you on your home. You're welcome to get other installers' bids too and compare, and we're happy to look at those with you. We want you to get solar. We think the solar co-op's probably going to work for you, but if you're looking at other installers, that doesn't hurt our feelings. We really rely on the co-op members to spread the word, get our numbers up. After those 3 steps, we'll put out an RFP, request for proposals, to solar installers and say, we'd like to get your best bids in. And we've developed a pretty comprehensive process for getting installers to give us everything you need to know in a format where you can compare apples to apples. Trinity and I will comb through them, call references, make sure what they're saying makes sense. That the warranty information they list is correct. Dig into the quality of the panels. We'll give you everything they give us if you're on the selection committee, but we'll also have a grid, a matrix that kind of lays them side by side to make it easier to compare. Then a group of co-op members will meet, review the bids, and select an installer. When you join the solar co-op, you'll be asked if you want to be on that committee. And if you want to be on it, you're on it. There'll be a sign-up deadline. There's a deadline for everyone to get a proposal. There'll be a deadline to sign a contract. You know, the price won't be hanging out there forever. If you sign a contract, you get an installation, and we kind of got lazy on having the party during COVID when that wasn't really possible, but I'm hoping to re-implement the celebration party this year for everyone that went solar, and for the last couple of ones. We owe some past participants that went solar a party. Here's the calendar for the Twin Cities Solar Co-op. We're going to put out the request for proposals on the 5th. They'll get back to us on the 20th. Selection committee, for those that want to be on it, March 7th, 6:30 p.m. So after March 7th, people will start getting proposals. And yeah, I think I took this screenshot earlier today, and I think we got 3 or 4 more members already joining. So here's the website, solarunitedneighbors.org, Twin Cities. Hit join the co-op, and it takes, 5-10 minutes. If you have an electric bill to download at the time you join, that's great. If you don't let it hang you up. You can get it to us or the installer later. Just one thing to notice about the page, you'll see on it, that's Julie Stoll. She went solar with us last year in the Longfellow neighborhood. Underneath her picture, you'll see co-op, updates, events, installers. Those are tabs you can click on to get updates. So once an installer is selected, you'll get an email, but we'll also put it there under installers. And if there's other updates, they'll be under that update tab. Here's the one in Duluth. We haven't officially launched it, just kind of a soft launch, letting folks from Duluth kind of tag along with the info sessions we're doing for now, for here. We're gonna launch that one officially in February, but it's floating out there. So again, thank you. That you can email if you email Minnesota team at solarunitedneighbors.org. Both Trinity and I get that. We can respond to you. My direct email is bking@solarunitedneighbors.org. So that wraps it up. Any questions, comments, thoughts? 28 folks hung in there. Thanks for that. I know that some of you on this call now will be solar by the end of the year, so that's exciting. Hopefully some of you will be able to take advantage of these new incentives for low income solar, and that'd be great.